Princess Liara had never known hunger in her life. Born into a luminous world where cities floated above crystal oceans and the skies shimmered with colors humans could barely imagine, she had lived surrounded by luxury and care. Her people revered her not just for her royal blood, but for the wisdom she carried, even at her young age. Yet, in a cruel twist of fate, her life of endless feasts and comforting songs was ripped away. The invasion came without warning. A monstrous fleet of dark ships tore through her planet's defenses, burning the floating gardens and shattering the great crystal towers. Liara watched from her palace as her world cracked apart, her people falling like scattered stars into the void. Her parents, the king and queen, had vanished in the chaos, leaving her alone amidst the ruins. She fled in a small escape pod, clutching only a fragment of her crown and a memory of her mother's voice humming a lullaby. Liara's pod hurtled through space, the emergency systems barely keeping her alive. Days passed, or maybe weeks. She had lost track of time. Her body, used to abundant nutrition and perfect care, began to fail. Her stomach ached constantly, and her skin, which once glowed with vitality, grew pale and fragile. The synthetic rations in the pod were meager and tasteless, barely enough to sustain her frail frame. She curled into herself, trembling from hunger and despair, whispering to herself stories of her home as if her memories could fill the emptiness inside her. The pod's navigation systems malfunctioned. Liara drifted farther and farther from any known star system. Loneliness wrapped around her like a cold blanket, pressing her down, crushing her hope. She tried to call out to any passing ships, to anyone at all, but the communications hummed back only silence. "Is this the end?" she thought, tears slipping from her violet eyes. She had once been a princess of 1,000 worlds, feared and respected, and now she was nothing more than a starving, fragile girl floating in the infinite dark. Then one day, or night, the concept of day had no meaning in the void. Her pod shuddered violently. Something had pulled her in, dragging her through the darkness like a tiny leaf caught in a storm. She feared another attack, another invasion, another loss. But instead of destruction, her pod landed softly, almost miraculously, on a solid surface. It was strange, unfamiliar. Green and blue stretched before her in vast, rolling plains, dotted with tall, thin structures that seemed to reach for the sky. Liara opened the hatch, trembling with fear and exhaustion. She had no idea what kind of world this was, but she could feel something immediately, something gentle, almost welcoming, that the stars had never offered her. The air smelled rich and alive, a strange comfort to her weakened body. Tiny creatures scurried around her feet, squeaking in curiosity but not in threat. And then, just as her hope began to flicker again, she saw something that made her stomach twist in confusion and longing. A small, colorful object lying on the ground, shaped like a fruit, glowing faintly in the sunlight. Her instincts, driven by the hunger that had now become a sharp pain in her belly, urged her forward. She touched it with trembling fingers, and as soon as she tasted it, her body shivered with delight. Sweet, juicy, strange, something she had never known in her world of carefully controlled flavors, spread warmth through her. Tears filled her eyes again, but this time they were not just for loss. They were for the joy of finding a small miracle, a gift in the emptiness of space. For the first time in what felt like forever, Liara laughed softly, a fragile sound that echoed across the alien landscape. She realized that even though she was far from her home, far from her people, far from everything she had loved, there was still beauty in this world. And perhaps, just perhaps, she could survive. Perhaps here she might find a new beginning, a place where a starving, hopeless princess could feel alive again. As she sat on the soft grass, tasting more of the strange fruit, she allowed herself to hope. She did not know the dangers of this world yet, nor did she understand its customs, but she understood one thing clearly. The simple joys of life, flavors, textures, warmth, and sunlight, could heal even the deepest pain. And in that moment, the princess of a fallen star began the first step of her journey toward something new, something unknown, something human. Liara woke to a sky streaked with pink and gold, sunlight spilling over hills that rolled endlessly before her. The alien fruit she had eaten the previous day still warmed her stomach, a comforting reminder that she had survived her first night on this strange world. She stretched, feeling muscles stiff from long days of drifting in space, and realized how heavy the loneliness still pressed against her heart. Though the planet seemed peaceful, she could not shake the memory of her burning home or the emptiness that gnawed inside her. As she wandered through the green fields, Liara noticed movement ahead. Figures were walking upright like her, but small, clothed in strange fabrics with faces she had never seen. Panic rose in her chest. She tried to hide behind a tall stalk of grass, hoping they would not notice her. Her mind raced. Were they hunters? Were they dangerous? In her world, beings she did not know could be deadly in an instant. But curiosity pushed her forward, a trembling force stronger than fear. One of them, a young human, perhaps a teenager, noticed her. He froze, wide-eyed, staring at her shimmering violet skin and luminescent eyes. Liara froze too, unsure if she should run or greet them. The boy took a cautious step forward, holding out his hand. "Hey, are you okay?" His voice was soft, calm, unlike any sound she had heard in years. It made something in her chest ache, a mixture of hope and suspicion. She did not understand his words at first, but his gestures were clear. Slowly, hesitantly, she nodded, unsure if she could trust him. Hunger and weakness made her desperate for connection, even if she did not fully understand this creature. The boy smiled, showing teeth that were strange to her, and reached into a small bag he carried. He pulled out a round, colorful object, offering it to her. Liara's stomach twisted in recognition, another fruit, this one different but still safe. She took it and tasted it, the sweetness spreading warmth through her limbs, calming the fear that had gripped her since leaving her world. The boy spoke again, more slowly this time, pointing at himself and saying, "I'm Eli. You hungry?" Liara nodded. The simplicity of his words, the patience in his tone, made her heart ache with a strange longing. For the first time since the invasion, someone seemed to care about her well-being without expectation, without fear. Her hands shook as she accepted his offered food, and as they ate together in silence, she realized how long it had been since she had shared a meal, since she had felt safe enough to trust another being. Days passed, and Liara followed Eli cautiously, learning the ways of this new world. He introduced her to small human towns, crowded with life and noise, utterly unlike the calm, ordered cities she had known. She marveled at how humans celebrated even ordinary things: music, laughter, shared meals, and stories. They had nothing of her world's perfect control, yet they thrived in imperfection. Their resilience struck her deeply. Here were creatures that lived through hardship, loss, and danger every day, yet they found joy in simple, earthly delights. Still, Liara's past haunted her. She could not sleep without seeing the destruction of her home, without hearing the screams of her people in her memory. She felt the crushing weight of responsibility she no longer had the power to fulfill. At night, she would sneak away from Eli's house, sitting alone under the stars, trembling with the memory of her failure. She wanted to be strong, but hunger and grief had made her fragile, and her alien pride often clashed with the human kindness around her. Then one evening, disaster struck. While Liara explored a nearby stream, trying to understand the strange flora, she slipped into the water. The current was stronger than she expected, and panic gripped her. Her strength was low, and she struggled against the flow, her limbs flailing. Eli arrived just in time, plunging into the cold water to pull her to safety. Liara gasped and cried, shivering not only from the cold, but from the realization of how alone she could have been, how fragile her life truly was. Eli wrapped her in a blanket, his hands steady, warm, and human. Liara felt something unfamiliar in that moment, gratitude mixed with awe. She had always been the princess, the one in power, but here she was, saved by the hands of a stranger, a simple human who showed courage, care, and loyalty. For the first time, she allowed herself to feel dependent, to accept help, to understand that strength was not only in command and royalty, but also in trust and connection. That night, under the glow of alien stars that mirrored her own, Liara whispered to herself a promise. She would survive not alone, but with these humans, learning from their resilience, their joy, their ability to find light even in darkness. She had found a small comfort in this strange world, and though she still missed her home, the warmth of companionship, simple food, and shared laughter began to fill the emptiness. And as she drifted into sleep, wrapped in a blanket and the quiet presence of a human who had become her first friend, Liara realized that perhaps being a princess was not about power or perfection anymore. It was about courage, heart, and the unexpected kindness of those who were willing to reach out to the lost. Liara had begun to learn the rhythm of this strange human world. She awoke each morning to birdsong and the faint aroma of baking bread from Eli's small kitchen. She marveled at the simplicity of human life, how they laughed while working, how they shared small joys without needing grandeur or ceremony. For the first time in months, her mind felt a fragile sense of peace. She thought, fleetingly, that maybe she could belong here. But peace was fragile like glass in her hands. One day, as she explored the fields beyond the town, a low hum filled the sky. Her alien senses tingled, warning signals she had not felt in weeks. Shadows moved across the golden grass, and she recognized the shape of ships, sleek and black like the fleet that had destroyed her home. Her heart froze. She could not imagine losing another world, another chance at life. Panic clawed at her chest, and for the first time, she realized how much she had depended on humans for comfort and guidance. She ran toward Eli, her steps clumsy and uneven, the memory of hunger and weakness still lingering in her muscles. "Eli, ships, they're coming," she gasped, trying to convey fear through gestures and broken words. He followed her gaze, confusion etched on his face, but when he saw the distant black forms cutting through the horizon, his calm eyes hardened with determination. "We'll figure this out," he said. "We have to warn everyone." The town erupted in activity. Humans shouted, grabbed tools, and hurried toward lookout points. Liara felt a mixture of awe and fear. She had always been accustomed to armies of warriors, perfect strategy, and precision weapons, yet these humans worked together in chaotic harmony, improvising, adapting, and relying on courage more than technology. She had no formal training for this world, but her mind raced, remembering tactics from her old life. She began to direct humans toward safe areas, pointing out paths she thought the invaders might take. Eli stayed by her side, steadying her, trusting her insight even though it seemed strange to him. Hours passed like an eternity. Liara's stomach, still weakened from days of insufficient food, twisted with tension. She had hoped this world could be a refuge, a place to heal, yet now danger threatened to consume her again. She felt panic bubbling under her composure. "Why does this keep happening?" she whispered to herself, tears stinging her eyes. In that instant, she felt the weight of her past. The lives lost, the worlds destroyed, the helplessness she had endured, and she wondered if survival was ever meant for her. Then in the chaos, something remarkable happened. The humans fought back not with perfection but with creativity. They used nets, traps, and even loud sounds to confuse the approaching ships. Liara watched, stunned, as ordinary people displayed courage and intelligence she had never imagined. They moved with instinct, heart, and a fierce determination to protect their own. And in that moment, Liara understood something vital. These humans, though fragile and mortal, were capable of a strength that no crystal fortress or technological marvel could match. The first wave of invaders retreated, frustrated by the unpredictable resistance. Liara collapsed to her knees, trembling with relief. Eli knelt beside her, offering a hand and a warm smile. She accepted it, feeling gratitude that went beyond words. Her hands were still weak, her stomach still aching, yet something inside her had changed. She realized that strength was not always about being alone or perfect. It could also be about relying on others, trusting them, and standing together against impossible odds. That night, as the town celebrated quietly under candlelight, Liara wandered to a small hill overlooking the horizon. Stars shone above, and she felt their familiar pull, a reminder of her home, of the world she had lost. But beneath the fear and the grief, a new feeling stirred: hope. She remembered the taste of human fruit, the laughter, the courage, the warmth of a hand held in solidarity. She understood that perhaps this world, strange and unpredictable, could be more than survival. It could be a chance to rebuild, to heal, to learn what it truly meant to be alive. Liara whispered a promise into the night. She would protect this new home as fiercely as she had once tried to protect her old one. She would honor her past, but she would not be consumed by it. And as she returned to the town, following the glow of human lights and laughter, she realized that even a princess who had once been starving, hopeless, and lost could find a place in the warmth of human resilience. For the first time, she believed that she was not just surviving. She was becoming part of something greater, something worth fighting for, and perhaps something that could teach even a fallen princess the true meaning of hope. The days after the invasion were quieter, but the tension lingered like a shadow over the town. Liara spent most mornings learning from Eli and the others, observing humans as they went about their daily lives. She watched how they cooked with fire, planting seeds in soil, tending to animals, and repairing broken tools with patient hands. At first, it seemed trivial to her. Her home had machines that did everything flawlessly. but slowly she began to notice something deeper. Each human action carried thought, care, and emotion. Every small gesture had meaning, and every mistake led to a lesson learned. Liara's hands, once delicate and unused to labor, grew calloused as she helped with chores. She chopped wood under Eli's guidance, feeling the muscles in her arms strain and ache for the first time in years. Her stomach had finally stopped twisting constantly from hunger, filled instead with simple meals of bread, vegetables, and fruits she had come to love. Even the taste of hot soup made her close her eyes in silent gratitude, savoring the warmth spreading through her. She realized how she had taken abundance for granted in her world, never imagining the joy that could come from the most ordinary comforts. One evening, as they sat by a fire in the town square, Eli handed her a small wooden flute. "Try this," he said, smiling. Liara hesitated. Music in her world had always been perfect, composed by machines or singers trained from birth. But now she raised the flute to her lips and blew softly. The sound wavered, uneven and rough, yet it made her chest ache in a way she could not explain. Eli clapped softly, laughing. "See, not perfect, but beautiful." Liara's violet eyes glistened with tears. She realized that beauty here was not in perfection. It was in effort, in emotion, in trying even when it was hard. But even in this fragile happiness, Liara could not escape the shadows of her past. Memories of her fallen world haunted her. One night, while exploring the woods nearby, she discovered a patch of wild berries. They reminded her of her planet's fruit, luminescent and strange, and her chest tightened with longing. She thought of her parents, of the towers that had once kissed the sky, and felt a pang of helplessness. The humans could not know the depth of loss she carried. She did not want to burden them, so she walked alone under the moonlight, letting her tears fall freely, her grief raw and unshielded. Eli found her there, sitting beneath a tree, clutching a handful of berries. He did not speak at first. Instead, he sat beside her, silent, letting her lean on him if she needed. Slowly, she realized that she could share her sorrow without fear. His presence alone brought comfort, a reminder that life could offer warmth even when the heart was shattered. She whispered her story in broken words and gestures, showing him the memories etched in her mind. Eli listened without judgment, only with kindness and understanding. The next day, the town celebrated a harvest festival. Liara, still delicate but growing stronger, joined in fully. She danced awkwardly among humans, laughed at games she barely understood, and tasted foods she had never imagined. Eli guided her hands as they worked together to light lanterns that floated into the sky. Watching them drift upward, she felt a connection to something greater, a sense of belonging she had not felt since before the fall of her world. Her grief did not disappear, but it felt lighter, shared among those who accepted her for who she was. Yet the world beyond the town still waited, unpredictable and potentially dangerous. Liara knew that safety here was temporary. She still had no way of knowing if remnants of the fleet that destroyed her home might follow her, or if other challenges lay ahead. But for the first time, she believed in herself, not as a princess of a lost empire, but as someone who could endure, adapt, and even find joy in the ordinary. She had survived hunger, hopelessness, and fear, and she was learning that humanity's strength was not in perfection, but in resilience, kindness, and connection. As the festival lights flickered in the evening sky, Liara turned to Eli, smiling with a warmth she had thought she lost forever. "Thank you," she whispered, not for saving her from danger, but for teaching her how to live again, how to find small wonders, and how to trust in the goodness of others. In that moment, Liara understood something profound. Even a princess stripped of everything could find purpose and comfort in the simple, extraordinary humanity of another being. And as they released the last lanterns together, watching them drift higher than she ever thought possible, Liara felt a flicker of hope ignite within her. A hope that this world, with all its imperfections, might just be the place where she could heal, grow, and finally belong. The quiet days of learning and joy were suddenly shattered when Liara spotted something unfamiliar at the edge of the forest. Dark shapes moved quickly among the trees, mechanical, precise, and threatening. Her heart froze. She had hoped that the fleet that destroyed her home was gone forever, yet something about these machines felt familiar, terrifying. They were hunting her, she realized, though she had no idea why. Panic twisted in her stomach, stronger than hunger had ever been. She ran back to the town, breathless, and found Eli working with others to repair fences. "Eli!" she shouted, fear raw in her voice. He turned instantly, noticing her as she pointed toward the forest. His expression hardened, but he did not panic. "Show me," he said calmly, following her as she led him toward the threat. The mechanical hunters glinted in the sunlight, scanning the trees with harsh red lights. Liara felt powerless, her alien technology long gone, her body still fragile, yet her mind raced. Eli gathered the townspeople quickly, improvising defenses. Liara wanted to help, but she felt clumsy and weak beside these humans who moved with courage and instinct. Her pride fought against her fear, reminding her that she had once commanded armies across worlds. But here, she was small, dependent, and afraid. She swallowed her pride and followed Eli's instructions, placing traps, guiding people to safer areas, and keeping children away from danger. Every action felt heavy, every decision crucial. The hunters advanced, their sensors scanning for heat and movement. Liara's chest ached as she watched humans she had come to love moving bravely in the open, using strategy rather than technology. She realized something profound. Humans were fearless not because they had armor or advanced machines, but because they trusted each other, relying on hearts and instincts over perfection. Liara had depended on machines and authority her whole life, but these humans showed her that courage could be born of connection. During the chaos, one hunter approached too close to where Liara was guiding a small group of children. Her instincts screamed, and without thinking, she leapt forward, using her alien strength to push it away. Sparks flew and the machine faltered. Eli shouted from a distance, telling her to pull back, but she held her ground. For the first time, Liara realized she could combine what she was with what she had learned here, her own strength, tempered by human ingenuity and trust. The town fought together, and slowly the hunters retreated, unable to adapt to the unpredictable and united resistance. Liara collapsed to the ground, trembling from adrenaline, fear, and relief. Eli knelt beside her, brushing sweat and dirt from her hair. "You did amazing," he said softly. Liara's eyes welled with tears, not only from exhaustion, but from a deep recognition that she was part of something extraordinary. Humans were flawed, fragile, and simple, yet their strength came from heart, courage, and trust, a strength that surpassed the mightiest empires she had ever known. That night, after the town celebrated quietly, Liara sat alone under the stars, reflecting on what had happened. She felt fear, gratitude, and all mingled together. She realized that she could no longer live only in memory, clinging to the past or her old pride. The humans had shown her a new kind of power, one she could embrace without fear. The power of trust, of vulnerability, of standing together when the world tried to crush you. Eli found her there and handed her a small wooden cup of warm tea. "You're safe," he said simply. Liara nodded, drinking slowly, letting the warmth seep into her bones. She wanted to tell him everything, her fear, her gratitude, her awe, but words seemed too small. Instead, she rested her head on his shoulder, letting the comfort of human presence fill the emptiness she had carried across galaxies. For the first time in months, Liara allowed herself to feel that she belonged. She was still a princess in title and memory, but her heart had grown in ways her old life could never have taught her. She realized that survival was not just about escaping danger or fighting alone. It was about trusting, learning, and opening oneself to the unexpected kindness of others. As the stars shimmered above, she made a silent vow. No matter what the future held, no matter what dangers came, she would protect this human world as fiercely as she had once dreamed of protecting her own. And in doing so, she discovered that perhaps the greatest power of all was not in her alien heritage, but in the shared humanity she had come to cherish so deeply. Days turned into weeks, and Liara began to settle into the rhythm of her new life. Yet, despite the laughter, meals, and small joys of the human town, a quiet storm raged within her. Memories of her fallen world refused to fade. At night, she would stare at the stars, trying to remember the feel of her palace floors beneath her feet, the sound of her mother's lullabies, and the proud voices of her people. A sense of longing clawed at her heart, making her feel small, weak, and unworthy of the warmth she had found among humans. One afternoon, Eli noticed her sitting alone by a river, her hands tracing patterns in the water. "Liara," he said softly, sitting beside her. "You've been quiet." She shook her head, refusing to speak at first. The words were trapped in her throat, heavy with grief. Finally, she whispered, I feel like I'm betraying them. My people, my home, I'm happy here, but they are gone. How can I belong when I've lost everything?" Eli listened carefully, his expression gentle yet firm. "Liara, you carry your past with you, yes, but carrying it doesn't mean you can't live. It doesn't mean you don't deserve happiness. Your people would want you to survive, to feel joy, to help others. Look at you, you've already saved lives here just by being yourself." His words touched something deep within her. She had always measured herself by loss, failure, and duty, never imagining that simply being alive and kind could be a gift to others. Over the following days, Liara challenged herself in ways she never had before. She helped build stronger defenses for the town, not with alien technology, but with human ingenuity, blending her knowledge with theirs. She taught children to recognize edible plants and how to care for animals, sharing knowledge she had once thought useless without her old empire. Every action, every lesson, reminded her that life could be meaningful in ways she had never imagined. Still, the emptiness sometimes returned at night. One evening, while helping Eli bake bread, she accidentally burned the dough. The small mistake made her heart sink. It reminded her of her old life, where perfection was expected and failure unforgivable. She wanted to crumble, to hide, to escape into the shadows of her memories. Eli noticed her trembling hands and took hers gently. "It's okay to fail," he said softly. "Humans fail all the time. We learn, we grow, and we try again. You can too." His words, simple but profound, shifted something inside her. For the first time, Liara allowed herself to forgive herself, not for burning bread, but for everything she had survived, for every tear she had shed, for every world she had lost. She realized that her pain did not define her. Her courage to continue, to care, and to love did. That night, she slept under a blanket of stars, letting her tears fall freely, not as grief alone, but as release, as a rebirth of hope. A few days later, a stranger arrived in the town, a traveler from another place, telling stories of distant lands and human courage. Liara listened, fascinated, and for the first time shared her own story. She spoke of floating cities, of light and music, of loss and exile. The humans listened, rapt, and she realized that her experiences, though tragic, had value. They could inspire, teach, and connect with others. She felt pride, not for power, but for endurance, for the heart she had preserved despite despair. Liara began to notice small joys she had never valued before. The warmth of the sun on her skin, the laughter of children chasing each other through the fields, the taste of freshly baked bread shared with friends, and the quiet comfort of Eli's presence. Each day she grew stronger, not only in body but in spirit. The girl who had floated through space, starving and hopeless, was becoming someone new, a princess reborn, not of a lost empire, but of compassion, courage, and human resilience. By the end of the week, Liara stood on a hill overlooking the town as the sun dipped below the horizon. The golden light painted the world in warmth, and she felt something she had not felt in years: belonging. She was not alone. She had humans who trusted her, who loved her, who inspired her. Her heart no longer ached with emptiness, but with gratitude, strength, and the promise of a life rebuilt. She had survived the darkness of space, the collapse of her world, and the hunger of despair. And now she had found a home in humanity itself. Liara smiled softly to herself, the wind brushing her face. She was no longer just a princess of a fallen star. She was something greater, a witness to human courage, a participant in their joy, and a survivor who had learned to embrace hope again. And in that realization, her heart felt whole for the first time in her life. The morning air was crisp, carrying the smell of earth, grass, and the distant aroma of baking bread. Liara stood on the hill overlooking the town, the sun rising like a promise across the horizon. She had grown stronger in body and spirit, her violet eyes reflecting the warmth of this new world. She realized that she was no longer the fragile, starving girl who had drifted through space alone. She was a survivor, a learner, and a friend, touched by human courage and compassion in ways her old life had never allowed. The town was alive below her. Humans moved with energy and purpose, preparing for the day, helping each other with chores, teaching, laughing, and sharing meals. Liara felt a deep connection to them, a sense that she was part of something larger than herself. She understood now that humanity's strength was not in towers, weapons, or perfection, but in the heart, resilience, and kindness that bound them together. They had taught her more than any palace or council ever could, that life, even in its simplest forms, could be extraordinary. Eli joined her at the hilltop, carrying a small basket filled with fruit and bread. "Good morning," he said, smiling. Liara returned his smile, feeling warmth spread through her chest. "Good morning," she replied softly. For the first time, words felt small against the enormity of what she felt: gratefulness, hope, and belonging. She realized that she no longer feared the future. Whatever came next, she would face it with courage, alongside these humans who had shown her the true meaning of life. Suddenly, the sky darkened. A familiar hum reached her ears, one that made her heart skip a beat. She looked up and saw shadows moving among the clouds. Her stomach tightened. Could it be remnants of the fleet that had destroyed her home? Panic threatened to rise, but Eli grabbed her hand firmly. "Whatever comes, we face it together," he said. Liara felt the fear within her, but it was tempered now with trust. She would not face the unknown alone. She had allies, friends, and a new family who would fight with her, teach her, and stand by her side. The fleet did not descend. Instead, a single ship landed carefully at the edge of the town. From it emerged travelers, humans from distant lands, curious and friendly, drawn by tales of courage and resilience. Liara watched, astonished, as these strangers were welcomed, shared meals with, and laughed with the townspeople. She realized that humanity's greatest power was not in technology or strength alone, but in connection, the ability to reach out, help, and share life, even with strangers. Liara walked among them, offering fruit, showing the travelers the town, and teaching what she had learned. Children laughed as she told them stories of distant stars and glowing cities, and adults listened, fascinated by her tales. For the first time, Liara felt the weight of loss transform into something beautiful, a legacy not of destruction, but of survival, hope, and shared joy. She was building a new life, one that honored the past while embracing the present. As night fell, the town gathered to light lanterns in the sky, a tradition Eli had taught her. Liara held one in her hands, feeling its fragile warmth. She released it, watching it float upward, carrying her wishes, her memories, and her hope. The stars above seemed to shine brighter, as if acknowledging her journey. She whispered softly to herself, "I am not just a princess of a fallen world. I am a princess of two worlds, the stars I have lost and the humans who have taught me to live again." Eli stood beside her, holding her hand. "You've changed this town, Liara, and it's changed you," he said. Liara nodded, feeling a profound truth resonate in her heart. She had once believed that survival meant fleeing, hiding, and enduring alone. Now she knew it meant trusting, connecting, and embracing the courage that exists in others as well as within herself. She had discovered the extraordinary power of humanity, and in doing so, she had discovered herself. As the lanterns rose higher, mingling with the stars above, Liara felt a sense of peace she had never known. She had found hope in the simplest human pleasures: food, warmth, laughter, trust, and love. She had been starving and hopeless, but now she was nourished in ways no crystal palace could ever provide. The princess who had drifted alone across the galaxy had finally found a home in humanity. And with it, the courage to face any challenge, the strength to embrace life, and the heart to create a future worth living. Under the starlit sky, with the humans she had come to love around her, Liara smiled. She was no longer a lost princess. She was alive, hopeful, and reborn, a testament to the resilience, kindness, and extraordinary spirit of humanity. And in that moment, she knew that no matter how dark the universe could be, even the smallest human warmth could light the way.